telling me that you have a way to defer the tax situation there? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so the first one I was referring to is a 1031 exchange, which only applies to investment real estate. The second one I'm referring to is called a deferred sales trust.
A real eye-opener to see that there are ways that people can use the regulatory framework, if properly structured, to invest 1031 exchange dollars in things that you would not think were like kind to what they exited from. So it was very impressive. I got to say, you are the first one I've seen pull this off, and I'm pretty hesitant to believe in a lot of these kinds of things. So it's a major feat for me to say, wow, this actually really worked, and it was really cool.
1031 is a way to shelter your income when you sell the thing. The DST is a way to avoid the 1031 and not have to suffer the time penalty.
Our career and during different tax periods, we've seen, these tax avoidance, tax minimization, offshore, all these different strategies undertaken to minimize or avoid taxes. And then I can tell you that, some of them are just not worth the trouble. And so I was skeptical. Admittedly, I was skeptical. I thought, oh yeah, here we go, another one of these, right? And then they say, no, it really is different, right? So look more closely. We looked more closely. We had, honestly, 2 years of conversations. 2 years. Now we were being due diligence at the same time that we were doing due diligence, but 2 years is a long time to be, sort of flirting with the idea of and getting to know the people and getting to really understand the transaction. Yeah, long story short, we got comfortable, although we are not tax attorneys, lawyers, or estate planning attorneys, that at least, from an investment perspective, that, it made sense to sell a highly appreciated asset, get liquid, hold that in this type of a deferred or installment sale type of instrument, and then just be in a position then to do the most important thing. I'm probably stealing your next question, which is time. They say, well, you can't make more time. You can. The Deferred Sales Trust, in a way, allows you to lengthen the investment time horizon for those assets after getting liquid, but before having to feel the tax impact. And from an investment manager's perspective, time horizon is the most important element in investing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Deferred Sales Trust Mastermind. Very excited to have you here with us today. We have an action-packed schedule lined up for us. And, we're really, really passionate about helping people defer capital gains tax on the sale of highly appreciated assets, including cryptocurrency, businesses, real estate, help people create transformational wealth plans so you can create and preserve more wealth, or help your clients, friends, or family do the same. For those who don't know me, my name is Brett Swarts, and I'm founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. I'm joined by an amazing business partner of mine. His name is Jake Miller. I like to call him the CPA Whisperer, the most interesting financial advisor, creative entrepreneur person that I've met. He's really fantastic, and he's here with us. Jake, how are we doing today?
Doing well, and my goodness, I don't even know what to say after an introduction like that. Thank you, Brett.
And by the way, you are wearing the sweater. Next week, we should do Sweater Friday. Jake, can you show us that sweater? What's going on there?
Oh my goodness, this is the Mazalon sweater, right? So it can only be found on Facebook, I think. And only the coolest of dudes buy it and wear it without coordinating to Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, it's a little inside joke. Jake and I spent some time in Cabo San Lucas for a real estate mastermind just a couple of weeks ago, and we were literally, it's like the night, it was a little bit chilly, and we're like, oh yeah, let's go change. And we come out and we have the exact same sweaters on, and we're like, let's just roll with this, right? And so they start telling us that they were the Sweater Brothers, and like it was kind of funny, but it's a cool sweater. And so our vision, or our kind of our layout for today, is to talk about the vision for why we're here. Then we talk about a deal close story of the week, and then we start to answer frequently asked questions, objections, thoughts, hesitations from folks, and it's like a classroom settings. No questions are bad questions. You can put them in the chat. Also, it'd be helpful if you put in the chat where you're from, what you're considering maybe selling, and or who you help to sell things. That'll be helpful to kind of get a feel for our audience. Of course, we're streaming this on YouTube, we're streaming this on Twitter, and I think Facebook as well. And so for those out there, we also appreciate you. We won't see your questions because we're in the Zoom. If you ever want to get live with us, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and you can register to get a free invite for this exclusive mastermind. But that being said, Jake Muller, what would you say the vision of why we are here?
So the people who would otherwise have to chop up their pie and share it with everyone else, including the government, this allows you to eat more of your pie and make it grow into something else. Essentially, anybody with a highly appreciated asset that otherwise have an eligible transaction that would incur capital gains plus the 3.8 aroma tax plus whatever state tax, right? We allow you to roll that over into new investments with a business trust. And this business trust allows you to continue to reinvest and grow your overall net worth prior to that day in the future that you can actually have more time, have more control over the timing, eventually pay that taxes down the road.
Absolutely. And I also want to touch on a few themes that this week, part of the vision as well for the Deferred Sales Trust. And, we know the concept of financial freedom, right? We know that concept, right? And the concept is something like Robert Kiyosaki came along and said, hey, can you get on the right side of the quadrant? Can you, instead of trading time for dollars, can you get your businesses and your investments to give you back that time? And therefore, you don't have to work if you don't want to, right? That's the idea of like financial freedom, right? But then there's became this thing called time freedom. And time freedom is sometimes frustrating for real estate owners or business owners that either have businesses or real estate that are producing that enough financial freedom, but their time, energy, and even let me add on to that, stress freedom can be frustrating as well, right? Because you're having to manage the managers or manage the properties or deal with the ever increasing law changes of rent control or eviction control and or landlord challenges that people have. Then there's a thing called I kind of want to introduce, and it's this idea of, we're not really introduced. There's one other one that I've been hearing lately. It's called location freedom. Location freedom, meaning, COVID-19 has happened and we're saying, hey, how do we, explore the world more, or maybe not work as much anymore, or do it from different locations or remote locations, and having this ability to go on these adventures. I know for my family and I, Jake, and for everyone listening, like we were considering moving to Florida at part-time or full-time and doing a little bit of mix between Florida and California for that new adventure and that location freedom. But there's one other one I want to introduce today. I don't know if I want to introduce it, but I've been thinking about it. It's this idea of entrepreneurial freedom. And Jake, I can't help but think about the Bitcoin deal that we helped for our client. And would you explain how the Deferred Sales Trust gave her that entrepreneurial freedom to invest and to start a business?
Absolutely. And I'll just begin with that. Most people, when they earn money, they expect to pay taxes. And, it's not always the happiest moment, right? But they come up on what would be a taxable transaction, and they start making plans of what's going to be left over after that happens. And this client of ours worked in the tech industry and invested really early on in Bitcoin, $50,000 that turned into $50 million. Wonderful opportunity, and was considering the need to realize what would be left over after taxes for what her goals were, what her dreams were, what she wanted to accomplish. After meeting us, Brett did an amazing job at explaining to her how things could work out differently and how she could defer those taxes. And it opened up all these new opportunities. It opened up these opportunities to where she could be an entrepreneur in a space that she didn't think she had enough left over, so to speak, to do all of these other things. And it actually helped her accomplish a childhood goal and assist a friend of hers from high school invest into a company that provides a learning app for students in India. And it's an amazing thing. So now she's able to, with the trust, be an entrepreneur with her friend from high school, because she doesn't have to pay the taxes now. She can defer those to the future. The trust can enter into this joint venture relationship with her friend from high school, and they're accomplishing great things together. We're managing, there's a liquidity requirement. Yeah, we're managing some of her assets and marketable securities to diversify from what she has in Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, she's able to do more than she originally planned on being able to do, because we have liberated her from what she thought she had to do immediately because of that transaction.
Yeah, it's really cool, and that's what we're about. We're very entrepreneurial. We're very real estate, as well as Jake brings the financial advising and the entrepreneurial mindset there as well. And so, how do we give you what you're looking for? And this environment is no longer just about cash flow. It's really about tax flow, and that's what we want to help change a little bit of your mindset, or encourage you to consider. More than just cash flow, it's tax flow. And what does that mean? Well, it means buying investment real estate and getting depreciation on that, right? And doing some cost segregation. That means using the deferred sales trust to exit something that's not even depreciable, like cryptocurrency or stock, public stock or private stock, or other assets that are highly appreciated or have no depreciation left. Moving into a deferred sales trust and then being able to invest into stuff that is depreciable and get some of that tax flow working for you. And tax flow is essentially, for every dollar I'm bringing in, how much am I paying in tax? And there are ways to use the regulatory framework, following correctly in the guidelines and everything else. Check with your CPA, all of these things. But stuff like tax flow would be, considering moving to a state for 51% of the time, right? Considering going into real estate to get some depreciation. Consider perhaps renting out a part of or getting a rental house, so that you're living in for a couple years to establish primary residency, or moving in and then selling and getting some big tax free money through 121 exclusion. All of these things are so important, but there's 10,000 pages in the IRS documents, and the key is having the professionals to help you exit smart, tax optimize, especially for highly appreciated cryptocurrency business. By the way, any questions, thoughts, comments, go ahead and put them in the chat. Appreciate that. And also, if you could say where you're from, what you're focused on right now, that would be cool as well. Maybe name, it could even just be first name and location, so we're aware of that. But I want to move into the deal close story of the week. And it's a cool one. It's a good one. And it's an exciting one because it kind of connects the crypto world, the real estate world, the Delaware statutory trust world, the 1031 exchange world, all in one deal here. And I want take notes and ask questions about this because it's all fresh in the brain right now, and I want to capture this journey. So a gentleman called me about 3 months ago, and he said, "Hey, Brett, I'm a longtime commercial real estate investor. I am looking at a 1031 exchange, is what I've always done, but I'm considering a deferred sales trust for the first time." I also was a securities professional at one point, and I'm very experienced with investing, and so I'm looking at this stock market world, this real estate world, and I'm looking at these huge values, and I'm concerned that I'm not going to be diversified. I'm going to have too much debt, and I'm going to overpay for a property. He goes, "In fact, I am not going to do a 1031 for that reason, and I want to consider the deferred sales trust. Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, let's take a look at your fact pattern. What's happening?" He goes, "Well, I'm selling about a $4 million asset. I have about 1.1. I have a basis of about $1 million. Okay, about $1 million, but I have sorry, his basis was zero. He had debt of above his basis of about $1.1 million. Okay, so he had a zero basis, about a $1.1 million debt, which gives him about $1.1 million debt over basis, and that's known as mortgage over basis. Okay, and for those who are learning for the first time, for the deferred sales trust, we cannot defer mortgage over basis, so we have to solve for that using what's called a Delaware statutory trust, which often gets confused with the deferred sales trust, but it's not. It's called the other DST, right? And so these two things are like in a Rubik's Cube. And Jake, explain this a Rubik's Cube concept, and then explain how to use a Delaware to replace the debt requirement so that these type of deals don't have to suffer the tax consequence.
Absolutely. So there's a number of different financial instruments out there that work for various types of situations. And that's what we do, is we bring the deferred sales trust, we couple it with something else. And it's almost like taking the Rubik's Cube and doing part of it myself, passing it to Brett. He does a little part of it. Sometimes we bring in other experts and specialists. They do a little part of it. We got the trust attorneys, and they match it all up and give it their blessing, right? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that provide lifetime auto protection and seal the deal. Now, in this scenario, say you have a mortgage over basis issue. What is that? That's an otherwise taxable event because you've had you're paying off debt through a sales transaction, and that ends up being an economic benefit to you. And because it's viewed as an economic benefit, it's also typically taxable. Now, how do we roll everything over into a deferred sales trust? If there's all this debt at the same time, do we just pay it off and pay the taxes? Typically, the answer is no. We use a 1031 into a Delaware statutory trust fund that has highly leveraged, it accepts highly leveraged property into it. An example would be an Amazon warehouse that allows a 85% debt to 15% cash ratio or equity ratio, right? So you do have to roll over a little bit of the sales into it, but then it can engulf or gobble up this debt issue that we're having that would otherwise be taxable to you if it was just paid off all at once. And that's usually a 4 to 11 year Delaware statutory trust fund where it's locked up in there, and slowly over time, some of it's being paid off. The equity is growing. And so what was a 15 to 85 ends up being like a 30 to 70, or, just over time it starts changing. And you can continue to roll that from one into another in the future, or pay it off at some point in the future, should your tax situation deem that it's a good time, so to speak. So couple that, the 1031 into a Delaware statutory trust fund to get rid of a lot of that debt, takes just a little bit of the cash from the sale, and then roll the remaining sales proceeds into the deferred sales trust so that we can continue to reinvest that in any type of real estate joint venture, in marketable securities, in a digital wallet for crypto, what have you.
Perfect. Yep, that's really good. Well, really well said. And so back to the deal story. This gentleman, again, zero basis, selling for about $4 million. And so he's looking, by the way, he's in the state of Colorado. So it's like 4.63 for Colorado. Plus you have 20% federal. So let's call that 25, plus 3.8 for Obamacare. So let's call it about 29. So 29% of this, about $4 million gain, which is about 1.16 million of liability. And so 1031 exchanges are our friend right here, right? One, he's selling investment real estate, so he's really fortunate. Remember, cryptocurrency, you can't 1031 cryptocurrency, right? You can't 1031 exchange primary homes or businesses anymore, or artwork or collectibles or stock, public or private stock. The deferred sales trust works for all of those. But in this scenario, he was able to take advantage of a Delaware 1031 exchange to replace what's called the mortgage over basis. And so in this scenario, the deal was a highly biggest company in the world tenant who who's leasing a property from a group, and there's about 15% down payment that was needed to offset this debt. So what did he do? Well, he had about a $1.1 million debt over basis. And so in order to replace that debt, 15%, which is about $165,000, was the down payment out of his equity, okay, at the exchange accommodator to replace that debt. And so that taxes are deferred there. And then the rest of the money was able to move into the deferred sales trust. So it was pretty cool because he accomplished a number of things. One, he wanted to get as much tax deferral as he possibly could. Number two, he did not want to do a 1031 exchange. Number three, he wanted to use the deferred sales trust. And then number four, he wants to be able to invest. And this is how I'm going to connect this dots here for the crypto world. He wants to invest some of it into crypto. And he's done some crypto investing. He doesn't want to put a huge amount in there. He doesn't want to over-concentrate or do things that aren't going to give him liquidity. But he's a sophisticated, smart, accredited investor. And he's going, look, I want to put some of this in crypto. I want to try to hit a home run here with some of the funds. And so can you invest with the deferred sales trust into cryptocurrency? The answer is yes. All tax deferred? The answer is yes. In fact, you can invest just about anything that's investment or business purpose. And that includes real estate. That includes investment real estate, businesses, ground up development, hard money lending, new business ventures. We have a client of mine who's a dentist. He just bought a rental property. We're doing another client out of Monterey. He's buying Airbnb rentals, and he's running those businesses, running those deals. You can be active or passive. It's super flexible, which is really the great part. We talk about diversification, liquidity, and then optimal timing. When you combine all of those things, it helps to create what's called this transformational wealth planning, which can help you create and preserve more wealth. That being said, that is the deal close story of the week. Jake, any other nuggets you want to pull out of that deal story or any questions that come to mind?
So I'm kind of just curious. I mean, we talked about some of his immediate goals and how he didn't want to be over-concentrated in any one thing, and he wanted to put a little bit into crypto. But what I guess, are we to the point yet where we know what his 5-year plan is, or where he really wants to be a few years down the road?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think he wants to be poised to be able to take advantage of real estate at a low price.
So
Right.
opportunity investing.
Exactly. Yeah, he's young, and he's like, you know what? I want to be. I don't want to. He's young, but he's not too young, in that he's been through market corrections and hits, right? And so he's saying, I want to be wise about this. I want liquidity. I want a chance to hit some home runs, and I also want some diversification. But then I want the ability to go buy back into real estate when it's a lower price.
Very good. And I think that's kind of key here. Control over timing, control over, everything that we talked about in the very first part of the show. This deal story of the week kind of exemplifies the ability to control timing of taxes, the ability to control timing of when to invest, not held into some kind of rigid structure of, 45 days this, 180 days that. They literally, he can invest in the meantime, marketable securities, everything else, and then liquidate and take advantage of that real estate deal when it's truly a deal.
Cool. Let's open it up for everybody. So we're going to encourage you to unmute your mic, to put in the chat, to say hello, where you're from, and any way we can answer any questions. You can have questions, you can have comments, you can have thoughts. It could be anything whatsoever. Just go ahead and unmute your mic, say hello.
Hey, Brett, I've got a question.
Yeah, go, Rebecca.
So had a call from a client yesterday. He's got a second home in the Tahoe area, bought it about 14 years ago, bought it for just under 600,000. My guess is it's probably worth, definitely over $1.5 million, maybe close to 2 million these days. He's never rented the property out. So I don't know if Jake can answer if that, does it really qualify for a 1031 exchange? Is it an investment property because it's appreciated so much? How does, the government look at that? But he wants to sell and then buy another nicer property because his property now, he wants to buy something over $2 million. Would something like a deferred sales trust work for this situation?
Jake, what do you think?
I would say absolutely, but a few more details. Can you tell us more or less the value of what he's looking to sell?
Sure. So he's definitely got $1 million in equity. I don't know if it's been depreciated, so I don't know what the basis is. I need to ask some more questions on that. But he and his wife have never rented the property out. They've just used it as a second home. I'm sure they've had friends come and use it.
Because it has been a secondary home,
yeah,
and it hasn't been exclusively for rents, et cetera, and that they have used it as a personal residence or a secondary residence, it would be ineligible for 1031. And so a DST would be almost, there's a few other things out there, but it would be their most likely bet to have a successful deferral of taxes and be able to reinvest the proceeds into something else.
So, and they wanted to reinvest in another second home. So I know one of the things is that they need to invest with a business purpose.
Right. There are some people who would like to do a short-term rental, who would like to do, kind of a retreat, resort, event type location, et cetera. Right. And they charge themselves the same going rate they charge other clients. Then technically it's not so much of a personal use because they're not self-dealing. However, in this scenario, it sounds like they want to purchase it for a personal experience. There's no conversation of charging themselves to be there or anything of that nature. Probably would not fly as a qualified deal for a business trust to reinvest in.
Okay.
Yeah. So one way around that would be to do some rental, right? And actually the majority of the time it's a rental. And then some of the time they're checking on the property, right? They're managing the property. And then like Jake said, making it, reasonable to charge back, right? But the nature of it is really, what's the nature of it? Is it a rental or is it a secondary home, right? And so if they're not renting it at all, then yeah, it would be off the table for sure, Rebecca, right? But if they can start to rent it and they can get a property manager to do that, and it wouldn't be so bad, right? Airbnb is pretty good rentals right now. I mean, that's some pretty good returns, and you can hire a property manager to do it all. And so that would be my encouragement. Does that make sense?
I actually just learned the other day all about arbitrators, and an interesting fellow who's putting together a fund to go buy properties to provide the supply that is lacking, because there's a huge demand for short-term rentals and few landlords willing to do it. And so then there's this middle space of arbitrators who are lining up deals to make that happen. Anyway, very interesting discussion, very interesting fund idea. And that might just lend, again, to what their overall desires are, as Brett mentioned. What is the intent of the property? Is it for personal use only, or are they willing, for tax reasons, because taxes are one of their big concerns, to do a business venture with it?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. They can use the cash flow off of the trust to qualify for a loan, and that loan could go be their second home, right? So do you know how much debt they have on the property they're selling for $2 million?
Nope, Brett, don't know yet. Just,
That's okay.
Yeah,
I already asked that.
Basic
Sorry. Yeah.
scenario.
I'm using the Rubik's Cube. I'm still trying to get it all. But let's imagine they own it free and clear. And let's imagine that they could put all $2 million in there. And let's imagine that it's in California, right? We know that.
Oh, yeah.
So 1.4 million of gain. So at least 37%. So that's $518,000. So all 2 million goes into the trust. And let's just say it's investing and it's making 8%, and they're taking the 8%. And that's $160,000 a year. That's income that comes in, which they can help to qualify for a new loan on a new property, right? Which if they had a down payment, they could use the down payment, or you use a portion of that 2 million as the down. And then that point they can, they could do it like that. Because I had a client do exactly this. They're like, hey, Brett, we sold in Walnut Creek and we want to buy in San Luis Obispo a $1.2 million condo. I'm like, you can live in it? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, it can't tax defer it, but why don't we increase the payments on the trust to help you qualify at a certain dollar amount? So I said, go to your lender, figure out with your lender how much you need per month. And they said, okay, we need exactly $6,000 more per month in order to qualify. We'll get the down payment somewhere else. And so we turned up the water faucet, if you will. It started flowing out more income. That helped them qualify for the loan. They purchased the property, boom. So there's still ways to do this. And remember, in the meantime, all this tax is deferred, right? So they're using the money they would have paid in the government that's earning the interest to take and to qualify for the loan. So that's a part of that cube, right? So get us there, get us some of those details. What are the details? Yep. We need the debt on the property. We need the adjusted basis for everybody. We need the estimated sales price. With those three things, we can start to move this cube and make it congruent. All right. Anyone else? Questions or thoughts? Feedback?
Yeah, so this is Nico from Seattle. Had a couple of questions for the Deferred Sales Trust. So one of them is the timeline, right? What is typically the timeline that people would choose? Is it like 5-10 years? Can it be renewed? And then when that timeline expires, if it does, then what happens with taxes at that point?
That's a great question. I want to bring in Mr. Pierce here if he is still available. He is also a part of the team. Pierce, did you hear that question? What's the timeline? Did you hear the question?
Hey, Brett, how are you guys?
Doing great, sir. You're looking good. I like that hair today. You did your hair for us today, and you got a haircut. I bet your wife appreciates that too, right? When you start to just really take some time and energy to get that going.
Well, tell me how you really feel, man. Yeah. I actually haven't even gotten a haircut. I just put on a hat. It's that passive investing hat we got at the conference the other day.
Cool. No, it's looking good, man. You're looking really good. So, but yeah, it's the timing. Did you hear the question? I don't know.
Yeah. So what's the timing? I want to ask a follow-up question. Timing in regards to what? So the actual timing on to when to start, the timing that you have to go back into a specific investment. Yeah. What kind of timing?
It's a great question, Pierce. So what I was thinking about is all right, you start, you go through the process to set it up. And so, here you are now, you have this Deferred Sales Trust, right? How long is this supposed to last for, this entity, and, with all the things that come with it, right? Is it 5-10 years, or is this an irrelevant question because there's no timeline associated with it, right? I'm just trying to learn here.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, I think what you're asking is how long do we structure the notes for? is kind of what it sounds like you're getting at. And what's beautiful is we can customize that. Typically we do 10-year notes. And then what happens is after the 10 years, you can just renew it.
Okay.
So you can defer it for as long as you'd like. And then,
and if you choose to not renew it, then at that point in time, you just move forward with whatever taxes have to be paid, right?
Yeah. So it depends on, I think, what assets you're invested in at that point. So if you're invested in some sort of real estate venture, we would have to sell and liquidate. And then from there, we would close the trust out and you would cash out, pay your taxes and go on from there. If it's in the liquid securities, we could just move them and you could be free and clear of it. So I hope that answers that question.
It does. And then can this timeline change? Let's say you set the notes for 10 years, then something happens and it's like, you know what? I want it for shorter, not to extend it, because you were clear that you can extend it for as long as you want, but can you say, well, can we do it 8 years instead of 10 down the road, right? After you set it up.
Yeah. So you get a lot of flexibility with the DST, which is, I think, one of the best things about it. So that would be, when that particular situation happens, you would want to get with the dream team, which is why we formulate the dream team, and talk through everything, because, you might be thinking one thing, but in reality, there might be a whole nother solution that you haven't even thought about, that someone else is doing a little part of the Rubik's Cube might bring up, be like, actually, this might work out a lot better. So that in that particular situation, we want to bring everyone together and talk through some of the different situations and what we could possibly do. But it is very flexible and customized.
Excellent. Got it. Thank you.
Great job, Pierce. Anyone else have any questions you want to jump in?
I've got a question.
Yeah, shoot.
Hi, my name's Aaron. I'm from Orange County. Very new to the DST concept. It's on your podcast on Spotify. And so thanks for putting this on. This is great. I guess, kind of following up on the timing question for setup as when to start. So I guess I'll share a little bit about my situation. So I'm a small business owner. Luckily, I found a little bit of success in a somewhat new emerging industry. So looking to sell a portion of my shares through a stock buyback. We've got an opportunity with a liquidation event that's coming up. And ideally would like to invest into real estate, crypto, and potentially some angel investments as well. But yeah, so as timing goes to set up a trust, like how far in advance do we need to be looking to be able to pull something off like that? And so we're a C corp, and how does that all work? I guess the follow-up question would be, like, at a high level, like what would be the step-by-step process to do something like that?
Great question, Jake. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So there's the mechanics of it, and then there's the real life answer. And of course, everything must be done before all contingencies are removed. So if you're doing a stock buyback and there's a window by which any party has free access to where if they pull it, the other one has to provide it, then we're kind of too late, right? So we need to make sure that we're in before that, before all conditions are withdrawn, so to speak, or eliminated. Some people call that a due diligence period when it's coming to like real estate, before all conditions have been met, right? To where, at any given moment that somebody comes to the table, they have to exchange property for money, and it's like no way out. In this scenario, we like to say, hey, at least 2 weeks before the actual sales date or something of that nature, we like to give the attorneys time to review the sales contracts. It's kind of a different phase if there's a letter of intent or if there's actually a sales contract in place. The earlier, the better. But then again, of course, we like to make sure that it's going to be a for sure deal. And so that's kind of a muddy answer. If I'm looking through like a Coca-Cola bottle, I mean, it's not incredibly transparent, but I guess to make things easier, when you know that there's going to be a sale or the likelihood is very high, get the group involved early, because this is a conditional engagement, which means that everybody's willing to pitch in and have all the meetings that are necessary, review all the legal documents, even create the trust, and even provide new language that is flexible for the sales agreement or for the buyback of the shares and everything else, that says, hey, we can buy this back and it can be sold by the company, or it might be exchanged into the trust and then sold by the trust. And so all of that is done beforehand at no cost to you, unless, of course, should you utilize the trust. And we, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the event becomes open, or the window is open for that buyback, is preferred.
Aaron, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. And do you have partners on that deal, Aaron, or is it just you?
I've got partners.
Okay. And is it just a lot of partners, a couple of partners?
About 3, including myself. So
perfect. Yeah. And so C corps, there's a little more cooperation with C corps. So with the partners, and oftentimes each partner, if you're going to do it, they're likely going to do it too. They don't want to pay the tax, but we do need a little more cooperation. S corps, LLCs, LPs, it's even more flexible. But yeah, the key is early, right? Like Jake said, it's all conditional, no obligation. Early. So the earlier better, and we can set everything up, get ready to go. We'll do literally 99% of the work. For some reason, it doesn't work out. The deal doesn't close. You don't want to use it. No problem. You don't pay us anything. You just probably pay your tax, right? Or you did something else. So get with this early. You can book a time. We're happy to go through it. Is the timing of the sale anytime in the next 30, 60, 90 days, Aaron?
potentially. Yeah, it could be.
Okay. Well, go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com, get with Jake and me, and we can schedule a time. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Anybody else have questions, thoughts? What was that the other one? The guy said hesitations, right? Like anything is open. Jake, do you have a thought?
Well, I was just going to add, and then I saw Gordon raise his hand, but I was just going to add that, so from a mechanic standpoint is largely what I was speaking to, but from an intent standpoint, if ever somebody were to scrutinize the transaction, why'd you do it this way? Earlier is always better. From showing the IRS the intent that, hey, I was going into this with the intent to defer. And that's why we had all these different things. That's why we established the trust. That's why we did all of this. It always looks better when it's not done at the 11th hour. The trust attorneys are amazing. And literally I've seen them whip this out in like 3 days, but especially during tax season, we want to give them as much time as possible because they're doing a lot of other things at the same time.
Yep. Nailed it. Thanks, Jake. Great context. Gordon, did you have a question? I think maybe you raised your hand. Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're on mute again.
There you
go. I've stumbled across a opportunity. I think it's a 80 units in 20 buildings on 7 acres of land. The town has it in at a little over 7 million. They've owned it since 1993. It's a husband and wife. This would be eligible for the DST.
Yeah.
I read somewhere there was a limit of $10,000 or $5,000 per person.
So is it 80 unit apartment complex?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've owned it since 1993?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the odds is
mom and pop operation.
Yeah. So that would be more than 27 and a half years, right? My math is right.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's fully depreciated. And so, you're looking at 29 years there. So the answer to be yes. So the rough answer, if it's 7 million, which sounds pretty reasonable for 80 units. Where's it located?
In Colchester, Vermont.
Okay, cool. Cool. Either way, 7 million, Vermont. Okay, I'm going to use roughly 35%. So $2.4 million difference here, right? So
right.
We could help them likely defer $2.4 million at the close of escrow. Do you know if they have any debt on the property, Gordon?
I just discovered it, so I'm doing some more research on before I approach them. But I just thought it would, it's a perfect opportunity for them to.
Looks like a perfect opportunity, right? Now the goal would be, are they ready to retire? Are they wanting to do?
They're in their 80s.
Okay, so likely they're ready to retire. So we're happy to sit down with them and kind of go through it and see if it could be a good fit, Gordon.
Okay. I'll pursue it and let you know more. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. No, thank you.
Who else? Who else has questions, thoughts? Raise your hand, unmute, put it in the chat. Happy to answer, especially from the new folks. We always want to hear from the new folks.
Well,
Break
I
the
kind
ice.
of want to hear from Leah. She always says really wonderful and amazing things.
That is true. What's up, Leah?
I was trying to just calm down today. Be quiet. I do have a question though, like I always do. I wanted to, when, hearing Rebecca and hearing Aaron, hearing Gordon and all the scenarios, I know that you have your amazing book, Brett. In your book, which I am going to buy to support small businesses, right? I wanted to know, in your book, does it have different scenarios? Or do you have that somewhere where all these different scenarios? Because I think that'd be really cool to just be able to study real life situations to be able to comprehend all of this information.
Yeah, well, actually, I'll pull it up right now. I do have, we have our California, we're putting books together for different states. The majority of our deals have been done in California, but we're across the country now. A lot of states. I should actually do a new one. But
That was another question too. Like in your book also, or somewhere, if there was like a cheat sheet that shows, what laws allow what in what states, and just something like that, a map where I can refer to.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, and then have like the breakdown of what each state has. And so this is the view that we don't have that yet, but I like that idea. So this is a view from one of the clients who sold a $7.9 million deal in Santa Cruz. In fact, they were doing an Airbnb rental. She's in her 70s. And she's like, I'm not doing a 1031. And she's like, and I don't want a 1031. I don't want to start over new toilets, new trash, and all that. And I'm tired of dealing with, in this particular thing, it was like the COVID restrictions for Airbnbs and all this stuff. She's like, just forget it. And her basis was 0. And it's about 2.6 million of tax. It was deferred. Here's the deal in San Francisco. They lived in, or part of this condo on the left is in San Francisco, and this other one was in Cupertino.
Hey, Brad, I think if you're sharing your screen, all we're seeing is your email.
Well, that's weird. Sorry. Thank you.
Because I was following your description and I just wasn't seeing the map.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Hair's back. All right. See that? You see it now?
Yes. Your case study, closed deals, California.
Yeah. So we have it. So if anyone wants to email me, you can get the California case study deal stories. And then this is the one in Santa Cruz, the Airbnb rental, then San Francisco, Cupertino, Palo Alto, is Aptos, Cupertino, Menlo Park.
I did see this because I think this comes when you first registered to get into your class.
Yeah, exactly. This comes there. Mm-hmm. And so we have this, and if anyone wants to get this, they can email me, Brett at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and just ask for the California deal close stories. You can also put it in the chat there, and we'll send this over to you. But yeah, what you're referring to, I think, is in more in depth. Yeah, we have some other things, like some case studies and different things, Leah, for sure. They're kind of one-off, not like booklets. They're more like, here's a page of this thing. Go ahead. Corey, do you have a thought? Maybe not. I think he accidentally put himself off mute, but does that answer,
okay.
Leah?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. I love hearing, and you're the only one that has the recording to this. So it's not like something like, oh, wait, I remember hearing something about that, but I can't refer back to it because, I don't have a recording of this, and that's okay. But if I had like another cheat sheet of like, oh, I remember, a scenario like this when, Gordon mentioned something like this, or I remember Aaron talking about something like this.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but not like names or anything, just examples.
I think that's good. I see what you're saying. Yeah, just like
we could have
samples of the crypto, samples of businesses, the dentist in New Jersey. I get what
NFT.
You're saying.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could have a list of Brett's most amazing deals and all the different ways it happens.
Cool. Yeah, I'll work on that. I'll get our team to work on that. That's a good idea. Who else? Questions, thoughts, feedback?
Hi, this is Sridhar from Dallas.
Hey, Sridhar.
Hey, Sridhar.
Hi. Okay, I have a question related to the DST. So I know like whenever they do the traditional IRA, they go through some trust, like custodian accounts. So they do transactions cost based on when they distribute the funds or do any transaction and yearly maintenance based in the trust. Do you guys do that? But does your team do the same way, like yearly charge and based on transaction cost?
Jake, you want to take that?
So it's a little bit different. Like an IRA requires a custodian that provides the reporting and recording requirements. What goes in, what goes out. Similarly, the tax attorneys, when items go into the trust, we're recording how much is capital gains and the type of tax classification. Occasionally, there's a different type of tax classification going in, as well as income generated within. Sometimes is allocated to interest income coming out if it's used to pay on the promissory note. And so I think that answers your question a little bit. We don't necessarily need a custodian like an IRA because this is not a qualified retirement account. This is a deferral, which it would be similar to like an annuity. which annuities don't require a custodian either if they're a non-qualified annuity, right? But a little bit different in the sense that this is a business trust and that the trust attorneys record a lot of that when things go in. And then, of course, as things are coming out, there's a tax return that's recording what's coming out as interest income. And if you take into the principal, what percentage of that would be capital gains.
Okay.
And so it has a tax return, even though there's no taxes paid, but it's the recording of what is or would be taxable in the future, what is being deferred.
Okay.
Good question. We got in the weeds there. That was good.
Yeah, I always got to trust and Sridhar to ask the really tough questions.
Yeah, very good. Very good. What else? Who else? Nobody else. And that's okay too. If there's nobody else, that's all good. That's no problem. That's good. We want to encourage everybody to bring a friend next week, right? Bring a friend who wants some capital gains tax deferral, potentially crypto millionaires, billionaires, investors, business owners, primary homeowners. It could be your good friend who's lived in that house in Mission San Jose for 30 years and their value went from $300,000 to $4 million and they feel trapped in the house. It could be the NFT artist who's looking to exit highly appreciated NFTs, businesses, real estate, you name it. We're here to help you make sense if the deferred sales trust is a good fit for you or something else is. For our listeners, Jake, who want to get in touch with you right now, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so give us a call, 1-800-773-1848, or shoot me an email. I got the email working again, Brett. We made all these changes to the website, and then we took it down. And that took down my email. So anyway, Jake at strategictaxsolutions.com. Again, Jake at strategictaxsolutions.com. It works now, as well as, I've got a variety of other financial service businesses, but simply put, the 800 number, 1-800-773-1848, or Jake at strategictaxsolutions.com.
Beautiful. And for those who want to get in touch with me, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, the podcast. You can check us out on the new book, me out in the new book. And I say us because Jake Miller is also in the book, as well as like a guy named Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. Super, super, super excited for this to come out. It's not out yet, but it is building a tax deferred exit strategy, a proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or your clients. Check that out to hit Amazon really soon. And with that, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your support. And please rate, review, subscribe. And please bring someone back next week. And we'll be here every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, to help you make simple the Deferred Sales Trust, to exit cryptocurrency, tax deferred, build a bunch of wealth, help others do the same. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great, great rest of your day. Bye now.